So if you're new to this particular run, there's been many other versions of FF1 that have been focused on this channel, especially the FF1 randomizer league that's been going on. This was a remake made for the game's 20th anniversary back in 2007, and features enhanced graphics, sound, a bunch of quality of life improvements, some additional bonus content, and most relevant for the speedrun here, there is an equipment glitch, which allows us to essentially create overpowered gear out of thin air and equip it on weapons and armor slots where it was never intended for characters that normally can't equip it. So right off the bat here, each of these guys are going to walk into the weapon shop, purchase a hammer, and utilizing the properties of the equipment glitch. It's a little complicated to explain, so I will probably just post a quick link that you guys in chat can take a look at to explain it better than I can explain it. But using it, they would turn it into a piece of armor and equip it on each of their characters called the Knight's Armor. It's a piece with it that's normally purchased in Melmond, has a high amount of defense, and having this much defense on our characters really early in the game basically reduces most enemy damage to minimal levels in random encounters, so they're not really at danger of being killed early on go. This glitch is very, very easy to perform. The hardest part, honestly, is just performing it quickly. So, I mean, anyone can pick up and learn the glitch in just a handful of minutes, and that makes this a very, very beginner-friendly speedrun. I myself picked this up about 2 years ago when we had our first Chaos tournament. If you're wondering why it's named Total Chaos 3, it's because it's the third tournament we've had. This is the any % category, so we're just going to go through the game as quickly as possible. Estimated run length somewhere between an hour 30 minutes and an hour 45, depending on player execution and the RNG they get. So right off the bat, they got the Knight's Hammer from the original glitch. It also sells for 18,000 gold, so they made an extra copy, sold it, and purchased a bunch of supplies in the item shop there. More than enough potions, antidotes, and Phoenix Down to get them through the run. If they didn't purchase it yet, they might purchase it in the next town after this opening section of the game. There's a couple of route variations people can use. So you may see that early on. So here we got Raeanus is doing the next glitch that we have. Once we get in here to the Chaos Shrine, there's another piece of equipment we can pick up here in this southwest treasure room, known as the Leather Cap. It's a pretty useless piece of equipment by itself, but thankfully for us, using the properties of the equipment glitch, we can turn it into an item that is only in this version of the game called the Judgment Staff. It's a staff that has more attack power than any of the weapons that our characters can have at this point of the game, and most importantly, if our characters use it in combat, it casts Flare. So it's by far the easiest way for them to deal with large groups of enemies right off the bat, such as the pirates group that's coming up here. But this first fight for Garland, we're just going to smack him and try to knock him down with this hammer. It should go down in 3 to 4 hits. You can get him with 2 if you get crits, but it usually goes down 3 to 4 hits. So Taralyn takes a quick early lead here. Due to the RNG present in this run, you're not going to see no lead is safe in this category until much later on. Players can and have overcome multiple minute deficits over the course of this run. So they're going to be able to, there's going to be opportunities for players to catch up and overtake each other quite frequently, either in the early going. So I'm going to post that link in the chat for people if they want to take a look at it. If anybody has any questions about this run, feel free to ask in the chat and I'll answer to the best of my ability. So Taralyn here is in the middle of a cutscene. Raeanus is just starting it. In the early going, the King of Cornelia, the princess, has been kidnapped by the Knight Garland, and we go into the Chaos Shrine to confront him. Once we have rescued her, we return to the Cornelia, and the king will build us a bridge that lets us proceed to the rest of the world map. So we're landlocked right at the start. You'll notice throughout the early part of this run that we're landlocked a couple different ways and times. So the first part of this is trying to get through the story parts to unlock as much of the world as possible so that we can get to the 4 primary element dungeons where the 4 mini bosses, or the 4 fiend bosses, are waiting for us. So Taralyn advances to the bridge, and this triggers a little cutscene where we see the real story begin at this point. This is a skippable cutscene in this version. So after you see those little doves fly off, they're able to skip it right there. Now we see them proceeding to the next town, Provoca. It's a bit of a walk over here, and you're going to notice they're trying to, where possible, stay off forest tiles. This game uses an encounter threat system where each step you take raises your threat level up to a certain maximum amount, and raises the chance you can get an encounter. Forests raise it faster than other tile types. So it behooves the players to stay off the forest as much as possible, but there's a large forest on the way over to Provoca, and there's really no way around it. So Taralyn makes it into Provoca here with her early lead, and over here is a band of pirates that we just wanted to talk, you know, about friendly stuff to, but they don't want to do that. They want to fight us. But unfortunately for them, that's a bad idea, because we have these judgment staffs, and that can very quickly take down the entire pack. If we didn't have that, it would take us probably 3 combat rounds to knock them down, which would take a lot more time than it does for the 8-second animation to cast Flare right there. So now that they've accosted us and made a mistake, they reward us by giving us their ship. Raeanus is just behind. Taralyn's going to do some shopping here, so she deferred her shopping early on. So we made an extra copy of the Knight's Armor using the glitch earlier, which sells for 18,000 gold, and now she's going to purchase some potions, ethers, antidotes, and phoenix downs here. You can also purchase them in the original opening town of Cornelia if you want, but there's no ethers there. So it's a little more convenient to defer your shopping to here, because you can also get ethers, which will play an important role later on. If you're familiar with FF1 in general, you'll probably note that Phoenix Downs and Ethers were not in the original NES version, or even the PlayStation remake, but they were added as consumable items that you can get in the Game Boy and GBA and PSP versions of this game. So there's a number of new items and other consumable items that have been added, which make this a little easier. On top of the there's been reduced difficulty level in general of the game, because they've rebalanced many of the encounters and enemies. But this game also ditches the original game's spell charge system and adopts the more familiar MP system from later games in the series. So things such as ethers work just as they do in those later games. So we see Taralyn getting an ambush here. If you're familiar with FF games, a lot of the encounters can start either like normally, like they are on Raeanus' side, or they can start as an ambush or a preemptive attack. If it's an ambush, each enemy gets 1 chance to attack our characters before we have the opportunity to enter commands and run. If it's a preemptive, our characters can run, and they will be guaranteed to run away on the first try. And if it's a normal attack, then they can just input their commands immediately and run. The fastest actual way to go, or the fastest way to deal with any combat, is just to try to flee early on, as there's not really any reason we don't have any need of killing these characters, because our characters don't need the experience that they can be gaining at this point. We specifically are waiting for forced fights, or certain fights later on in the run to gain experience on, and the amount that these guys grant early on isn't really necessary for our leveling purposes. A lot of the perks of the equipment glitch is that it overpowers our characters relative to the level that they are, and can overcome a lot of the stat deficiencies that they have. So grinding is pretty much minimal in this category. So Taralyn has made her way over to the Marsh Cave. Raeanus is not far behind, probably a little bit less than 30 seconds behind. And the Marsh Cave, their goal is to get to the 3rd basement floor, and they're going to stop in the room with the crown. 1 tile before they can pick up that chest, there is a forced encounter with a group of enemies known as Pisco Demons. You're going to see the runners most likely heal up before that fight, because in spite of the fact that we have extremely powerful defensive gear, the Pisco Demons still hit really hard. and criticals ignore defense on our party. Taralyn's in a bit of a precarious spot here because she got 3 party members paralyzed. If all 4 party members are paralyzed, then the enemies can basically just take attack after attack after attack, and she's hoping at that point that they randomly break out of their paralyzed status, but it can waste a lot of time and be very, very dangerous if they continue to attack and paralyze. Raeanus is taking a little bit different of a strategy than I'm used to seeing here, where he just physically attacks the Disco Demons. Typically you'll see a larger group like you're seeing on the Taralyn side, and she'll use the Judgment Staff to kill them instead. So Raeanus has taken a very slight lead here, and he's picked up the crown. Now if he made a mistake and he accidentally didn't pick up the crown and he went back to grab it, it would force another encounter on that exact same tile. So you'll notice there's such spike tiles like that throughout this run. So runners will hopefully not be making that mistake because it's a time loss anytime they do that. So now that they have the crown, there's nothing else left for them to do here in the Marsh Cave. They're just going to exit out as quickly as they came in, same path. Taralyn makes slightly less movement errors and looks like she's made her way out a little quicker. Raeanus gets an encounter here with shadows. Oops, looks like Raeanus accidentally walked back in. That's an easy mistake for relatively newer runners. Both of these players are relatively newer runners, and I believe this is their first appearance in one of their Total Chaos tournaments. I think I'm one of the few veterans that has been in all 3 tournaments at this point, but there's plenty of newer players in this tournament that are learning the game and working their way up the leaderboards, trying to get a good time and just trying to have a lot of fun with this game. This is one of the, honestly, most fun race categories because it can be a little frustrating to run while you're actually in like a race such as this, but it's actually great for viewers because of the possibility of, lead changes and overtakes. So it's just as much fun to commentate races like this as it is to run it. So both of them make their way over to Western Keep now that they have the crown. They're trying to return it over here to the Elf King, except this isn't really the Elf King. This is someone masquerading as the Elf King. This was Astos, the Dark Elf. So he tricked us into returning his crown, and now he's going to try to kill us. But once again, we have extremely overpowered equipment here, so we're going to try to kill him first. Astos has a powerful spell he can use on his first turn called Death. He didn't use it in this one, so he should go down in 1 round to both these characters. The strategy here is to have the melee characters attack with the staff, and then have the mage characters use it as an item. The Black Mage will typically do over 200 damage, which is more than half of Astos' health in this early going. And between the other 3 characters, they should also be able to do enough health to take him down in 1 round. Additionally, if Astos happens to kill one of our characters, it necessitates us opening up a menu and resurrecting that character, which can waste a little bit of time. The primary goal of this, especially in the early going, is trying not to waste as much time as possible. But a lot of enemy counters in the early going can change the lead. It's out of these players' hands just how many encounters they're going to get this early in the run. And we don't have any gear that can aid us in terms of running away from enemies. At least not this early. So both of them are walking out. It looks like Raeanus looks to be getting a slightly better luck with the encounters here. Taralyn's getting a pack of these wolves. Wolves can be a little bit more difficult to run from as they have a higher agility and are just in general tougher to run from. So Raeanus is back to Alfheim, and he's actually opting to duck in here. But he notices his characters are a little underleveled. He was going to pick up some spells, but his Black Mage in particular is underleveled. He can't obtain spells until his character obtains the level to be able to use the spell. So he was going to pick up Fyra and Thundara, as Taralyn is doing here. But since he got only the minimum number of Pisco Demons in that fight, he actually ended up just a hair short of being level 8. So he can't purchase the spells yet. He was going to, hopefully to make these sea trips a little quicker, but lucky for him, he's not getting any sea encounters, so it's not hurting him right now that he couldn't pick it up. Additionally, Raeanus and Taralyn have picked up golden needles here in the town. They don't need them right now, but this allows them to cure petrification, and petrification is a major issue that can hamper people during runs. So it is far safer to pick up golden needles, even if we don't need them right now, than it is to try to skip them and go through the run. It's not recommended to go through this run without it. So Raeanus is the first one over to Matoya's cave. After we defeated Astos, we picked up the crystal eye that he stole from Matoya, and we're here in this cave to return it to her. She rewards us with an item called the Jolt Tonic. We can take that to the prince in Alfheim, who was put under a spell by that dark elf Astos. And so he's been cursed. He's in a cursed sleep right now, and the Jolt Tonic will wake him up. Raeanus is getting broom block. This is really unfortunate for him. This NPC broom is in his way, and it's entirely up to him when this broom chooses to move. He can try to force it out of the way once it gets out of that little corridor with the door, but there's not much else he can do other than to wait it out. That really sucks. So both of them have the Jolt Tonic, and they're on their way back to Alfheim. Raeanus may want to kill an enemy encounter somewhere along the way to make sure that he gets the levels he needs to pick up those spells that he couldn't get earlier. Pretty much almost any encounter should do at this point for him. He just needs to get into something and force an encounter. But he is getting very, very good luck in terms of the sea encounters. Sea encounters are some of the most time-wasting ones right now, so he's going to have... He might have a little trouble. I think he's going to realize he doesn't have enough experience yet to pick up his spells, so he might have to go outside, force a fight, and then come back in and purchase his spells after he gets out of here. But right now he's returning. He's taking the Jolt Tonic to this healer that's besides the Elf Prince, and the Elf Prince wakes up from a deep sleep and rewards us with the Mystic Key. This is a crucial key item we need early on that unlocks a number of rooms that contain a bunch of treasures which are important for us in this speedrun. So Taralyn is also doing the same thing. Once Raeanus gets the Mystic Key, he actually ducks out of the castle on the left side and then returns into the castle because it's quicker to do that than it is to walk all the way around the castle to get to this little treasure room in the back of the castle. So he's picked up 2 items in here. He's picked up a Mithril Hammer, which can be used to glitch a piece of armor known as the Thieves' Armlet, and he's putting that on each of his characters. He's going to put 3 copies on each character. This has more defense and evasive ability than the Knight's Armor we picked up earlier, and adds 5 points of agility. This is an item that wasn't in the original game. This was added with the bonus content beginning with the GBA, and so you won't see this in a NES or PlayStation version run. And then additionally, they picked up a Bronze Gloves that can be used to glitch a weapon known as the Sage's Staff. They're not going to be using it primarily for attacking purposes, or even using it as an item in combat, but one property of equipping that on their characters is it raises intelligence by 15 points, which greatly aids the amount of damage that the items that they're using, such as the Judgment Staff, can do in combat. Now, I didn't see, but I believe Raeanus skipped getting the spell since he is still only level 7 at this point. Looks like they're all set with the glitching menu here. Raeanus has returned to Cornelia. Now that we have the Mystic Key, one of these treasure rooms are open, and we can access them in the back of the castle. And there's a key item we need to advance the plot at this point here in this chest, called the Nitro Powder. In this early going, we're actually, again, landlocked, or in this case, sea-locked. We're kind of hemmed in on the overworld, and we can't get out of the area to reach the rest of the world on the sea, unless we take this Nitro Powder over to a cave of dwarves at Mount Dwerger, and we hand it to one dwarf, and he will blow open a canal that will allow us to access the rest of the sea. And at that point, the only 2 things we need at that point to be able to traverse the rest of the world map are a canoe and an airship. So they'll be working on their way to get those as quickly as possible afterwards. So Taralyn's out and chasing just behind Raeanus, who's got a slight lead. It's probably not even 30 seconds between them right now. So we're keeping a close race. It's very easy for runners to get so many encounters in the early going that they can fall several minutes behind their opponent in these races. But even right now, in a relatively short run of an hour 30 to an hour 45, a 2-minute lead wouldn't mean anything. So a 30 seconds is really close. And now that each of their parties has 3 Thief's Armlets on each of their characters, each character has an additional 15 points of agility. Agility influences turn order and also raises the character's odds to run away in combat. So they have a significantly easier time running away from encounters now that they have this gear equipped. So you should see them more consistently act earlier in the turn order and run away even quicker. This is a short little cutscene here showing the dwarfs blowing the canal open for us. So this early part that Taralyn's in right here is a little bit of unskippable. So it just pans down here to show us what's getting blown up, and then as soon as this transitions to the next one, this is a skippable portion of the cutscene. So Raeanus here is continuing on. He just exits out of the dwarf cave the way he came in. And he's going to return to his boat and then head to the next town that's just outside the canal we blew open. Making their way over here. Raeanus is going to take a quick pit stop over here in Melmond and pick up probably the single most important piece of equipment that we need in this run. Now I know what you're thinking, steel gloves are the single most important hero-saving, world-saving item in this entire game. Well, you'd be correct in that instance because they can actually be glitched into a piece of equipment, in this case a weapon known as the Barbarian Sword. This sword has a ridiculous amount of attack power, and it's an item that was only available from the bonus content available only in the PSP version of this game. So if you're familiar with the NES version, Excalibur is, I believe, the most powerful weapon in that game. It has 45 attack power. This Barbarian Sword has 125, which is nearly 3 times as powerful, and on top of that, it gives a 15-point strength boost to our characters. And using the power of the equipment glitch, we can actually equip that on multiple characters, including those who were never intended to wield it. The only way you were supposed to get this is from the super boss, from the bonus content of the PSP exclusive dungeon called the Labyrinth of Time, by defeating the most powerful boss, because there are 8 forms of that boss, and the most powerful form drops the Barbarian Sword. Each form drops a different piece of equipment, and a lot of the items that she can drop are actually featured in this run and are half the reason why this run is so significantly quicker than other versions of the game. So with that Barbarian Sword intact, or with it in tow on, I believe, 2 of our characters. They should have equipped it on their Warrior and Thief at this point. Those characters will be capable of one-shotting pretty much almost any enemy in the game except for the Fiends. And in that case, they can maybe 2 or 3 shot those Fiends. Raeanus is entered the 3rd basement floor of the Cavern of Earth. This is the first dangerous dungeon that can potentially cause problems for our party at this point. They can run into the Pisco Demons, which were a forced encounter earlier. They can run into them as a random encounter here, and it's unrunnable. They can run into large groups of undead enemies, such as Wraiths, which you see here on Raeanus' side, and he's going to unfortunately getting ambushed by them. Each of them has a chance to paralyze our party, and probably most dangerous of all, they can run into groups of enemies called cockatrices, which have a chance to petrify our characters on hit. If they happen to get into an ambush or something like that, it can prove very dangerous. So it is actually recommended for racers to take a safety save on this floor, just in case of something going wrong. Here we see Pisco Demons on Raeanus' side. He's unfortunately made a mistake here because he was trying to run away from Pisco Demons, and he can't do that in this game. So what he has to do here is he actually has to take use his Judgment Stave to kill them, or he has to attack them with one of his weapons on his characters. But if you try to run away from enemies that you can't actually run away from, you don't get any feedback that you can't do so, other than you see the enemy, you see your characters take their chances at running and they fail to do so. You don't see any message saying you can't run away or anything like that. So the runners themselves will have to be able to quickly identify which groups of enemies they can and cannot run from, and sort of memorize that as they go, as they're learning and perform this run. So neither one of them has gotten any particularly dangerous groups yet. The most dangerous I saw was probably the Wraiths on Raeanus' side with that ambush, but he got pretty fortunate in that they didn't really paralyze anyone. So at the bottom of the third basement floor here, they confront the vampire, and with the power of our barbarian sword, they can one-shot him and get him out of the way. Just behind him is this key item called the Star Ruby, and the first fiend, the first elemental fiend that we have to confront, the Lich, is actually at the bottom of this dungeon, but our progress in the dungeon is currently blocked by a slab, and so we will have to backtrack to the world map and take a different route to go pick up an item that lets us remove that slab called the Earth Rod. In order to get there, we have to take the Star Ruby over to a giant's cave, hand it to a giant who is also currently blocking our path, and then once we have that and have defeated the vampire, the sage Sada will reward us with the Earth Rod. But it's a bit of a detour at this point, and it puts them in a bit of a dangerous situation, because this is a long floor on the third floor of this Earth Cave, and the enemy encounters here could be very, very dangerous for Trolli if they get really unlucky. I believe Taralyn has taken a brief lead and has gotten off the dangerous third floor, so all the encounters on the first and second basement floors are runnable. You see Taralyn getting a preemptive here. Now, a preemptive is actually slower than a normal fight, assuming that you are able to run on your very, very first opportunity in a normal fight, but it only costs about 2/3 of a second, and the advantage of a preemptive is you are guaranteed to run on your first try. So it might cost her it won't cost her more than 2/3 of a second if she gets a preemptive, and it's very safe to run at that point. Unrunnable encounters can never be preemptives, so you will never see something like that. Raeanus is getting gargoyles, which can do a bunch of damage because they land a lot of hits on our characters, and even though we're reducing the damage with the equipment we have on, each hit still does enough damage where it stacks up a little bit. Taralyn's made it here to the Giant's Cave, and she's going to feed him the Star Ruby, his favorite snack. And then in thanks, he's just going to move out of the way, but he's going to do so at a very, very slow pace. So we just have to sit here and wait for him to move. Raeanus is definitely having worse luck in terms of encounters at this point in the run. Taralyn's on pretty solid pace so far. She's getting a group of shadow enemies. An interesting property of the shadow enemies is that they can only be encountered in preemptive or ambush formations, so you will never see a regular encounter against them. Luckily for us, the ratio of them getting... Oh, but there's an ambush right there. Ratio of preemptive to ambush is roughly 90-10, so this is a little unfortunate for Taralyn here. Raeanus has made it into the Giant's Cave. Meanwhile, Taralyn has proceeded through to the Sage's Cave, and she's just going to talk to the Sage here and get the Earth Rod. So that can be used to remove the obstruction that was at the end of the third basement floor in the Earth Cave. So now that we have that, we have to trek all the way back there. I mean, all of the fetch quest and backtracking is really in the early half of the run. After this, you're pretty much going to be going from destination to destination as quickly as possible, and other than some quick shopping trips later on, you're not going to see too much in the way of them retreading old territory. So Taralyn getting another shadow group. She's gotten quite a few at this point. but she's still making good progress, and she's probably got maybe a minute to a minute and a half lead on Raeanus right now. And it's still completely possible for him to make up, or for her to get so many encounters that he can catch up for her. So this run is far from over for either player. So once again, Taralyn has made her way to the Cavern of Earth, and she's got to go back through the first 2 floors again. No real danger here. You can see anacondas, which have a chance to poison us. Poison is not a particularly dangerous status against us in this run, and can actually be beneficial in a couple of circumstances. We want to, at a certain point in this run, kill off of our characters, or kill off our melee characters, so that the mages can grind XP a little bit faster, and getting poison can sometimes let us control the HP of those characters, and get it down to a level where it can be killed off conveniently later on, if we need it to be. But if they don't want it, they have antidotes to be able to cure that. So these early floors have some pretty high encounter rates, but nothing particularly dangerous here. Raeanus has almost made his way back. And Taralyn makes it to the 3rd floor again, so once again, this is where the danger starts here. Neither player has taken a safety save. One notable feature of this version of the game, especially with the GBA version, is you can save anywhere at any time. So safety saves are highly recommended, especially in race situations, because it can drastically cut down on the amount of time you have to spend recovering if you have to wipe or you get a really unfortunate encounter. Taralyn's getting a forced encounter here with Pisco Demons. With the Sage's staff that she picked up earlier from the treasure room in the Elf Castle, her Black Mage has the Sage's staff on there, and it has 15 points of intelligence added to his natural values. And combining this with the Thundara that she picked up early on, she can actually cast Thundara now to clear out groups of Pisco Demons quicker than using the Judgment Staff, because the animation time for Thundara is significantly shorter. So that is the goal of purchasing the spells, is it gives us some flexibility in how to deal with larger enemy groups or more dangerous enemy groups. Because otherwise, some older routes only use the Judgment Staff, and the Judgment Staff is a long 8-second cast time each time you cast it. You can pick up spells like Fira or Thundara, or there's also some runners will pick up some combat use items, such as the Mage's Staff or a Black Robe to cast Fira or Thundara or Blizzara, and they will use that instead of using the Judgment Staff for groups such as these to try to shorten the amount of time they spend in combat. Minimizing the amount of time you spend in combat is a key aspect of improving your times here. So Raeanus has made it to the 4th floor. Taralyn is also on the 4th floor. These guys are pretty much neck and neck right now. They used the Earth Rod there at the very end to open up the slab and remove the block that was preventing their progress. 4th floor can still also be dangerous here. And these bats can get in the way in a bunch of spots and trick us and make us take extra steps, which risks more encounters, so they're hoping not to get blocked by too many enemies here. Both of them getting an ambush, and these encounters kind of suck right here. It's a little more dangerous for Raeanus because these enemies can paralyze. So Taralyn is healing that, and she's healing up before this fight. She's almost at the end. Raeanus is on the 5th floor and has taken the lead over again. At the bottom of the 5th floor, they're going to confront the first boss of the game, the first major boss of the game, the Lich. With the underleveled characters that we have, it is unlikely that we'd be able to survive if Lich uses his powerful Blizzara attack early on, so a safety save is highly, highly recommended before fighting this, just in case the Lich happens to outspeed and take his turn before us. So they're both right here at Lich. They're hoping to use the Barbarian Swords they picked up earlier to just be able to 2-shot and quickly take down Lich, hopefully before he can act. They have to do 1,200 damage between their two characters, and it looks like it worked perfectly for Raeanus. He got it off. The mage's weapons are not nearly as powerful as the warrior. Oh. Taralyn, unfortunately, rolled a little low on her damage, and Lich countered with Blizzara, which would have wiped her party with the amount of HP they had, so she's going to have to just take advantage of that safety save, reset it, and start over. That's going to put her a little bit behind, but not hugely behind. I believe the current record for the tournament is someone got Blizzard 4 times in a row. So it's just unlucky. That's a little low roll there. Again, they low roll, but this time Lich opts to use his physical attack rather than Blizzara, which is much weaker. So they both got through now. From this point forward, you're probably going to see them not heal any of their melee, either of their melee characters, the Thief or the Warrior, as in the near future they're going to be setting up an experience grind for their mages. So they want to keep them relatively low HP so that at a certain point we can have an enemy kill them off with relatively quick. So we see on Raeanus' side, his warrior's at about 30 HP, his thief is about 60 HP right now, which is in the ideal range. You want it between probably 20 and 70 for both characters. We'll be grinding up against the Evil Eye in the Ice Cavern, and the Evil Eye can cast Thundara, which typically does usually around 70 damage minimum to our characters. So it won't kill their mages if they're healed up, but it should kill their warrior and thief. And once you kill off the warrior and thief and then fight the Evil Eye, the experience gained from killing the Evil Eye is split among only the party members that are standing at the end of combat, so they will gain twice as much experience as if all 4 party members were standing. So now Raeanus is the one having encounter luck here, as Taralyn's having a slightly better walk back to her boat. And still, neither one's very far ahead or behind of the other. So Taralyn starts to sail over to Crescent Lake, our next destination. Now that we've defeated the Lich, we can talk to an NPC here in Crescent Lake and pick up a canoe, which is another key item we need to be able to travel around the world and reach certain destinations. But it won't be awarded to us until we've defeated the Lich. It's a bit of a long sail. Raeanus is getting some Sahagin encounters. This would have been a little more dangerous and trolly if he had gotten this earlier in the run, but with the higher agility that his characters have picked up from the equipment we got earlier, he should be able to run from this more consistently than he would have if he had gotten this earlier on. So far he's getting a little unlucky in that he didn't run round 1. Taralyn has made it over here to Crescent Lake. And additionally, before we pick up this canoe, we're going to duck in here and pick up 2 more key pieces of equipment we need for equipment glitching. The Mithril Glove from the Armor Shop, the Mithril Axe from the Weapon Shop. These will turn into a pair of items known as the Black Garb, which is a robe that has even more agility than the Thief's Armlets we picked up earlier. It's another item that was in the bonus content. So they're going to take advantage of the Mithril Glove and turn that into 3 copies of Black Garb for each of the Thief, White Mage, and Black Mage. They're not going to equip it on the Warrior due to the properties of the equipment glitch. It takes more effort than it's worth to put it onto him. And then they're also going to use the Mithril Axe turns into the Black Garb, and the Mithril Gloves they picked up turns into this weapon that they put on their mages known as the Lust Dagger. This provides an additional 20 points of agility when equipped, and is another bonus item that was, I believe, only obtainable from the PSP Super Boss. So her mages at this point will both have a Lust Dagger equipped, which is 20 points of agility, and then 3 each of the Black Garbs, each of which adds 10 agility. So now they have 50 additional points of agility on their mages, which makes running even more consistent than it was, and greatly, again, speeds up their characters in combat. So you're going to see them more often than not acting very quickly with the mages and then running away almost instantly. It's not guaranteed, but the chances go up significantly. So Taralyn is still... I'm sorry, Taralyn has made it out, and she's working her way up there. So how is the weapon glitch done? It takes advantage of a programming error that they... utilizing the memory cursor in this game. It's a feature that you've seen in probably many FF games where they offer you the option to remember where your cursor's position is in certain menus in combat. A lot of later FF games have that, and it was added to this remake. But an unusual quirk of it in this one is that if you attempt to, if you line up two, if you turn the memory glitch or the memory slot on, and then you line up two equipment slots between two characters, two adjacent characters in the party order, because they can press L and R on either of these weapon screens to scroll between different members of their party, and then they try to open up a list of equipment at the same time that they scroll to another character. It confuses the game into thinking which pieces of items are actually in your inventory. And if you happen to like line up a weapon slot and an armor slot on adjacent characters and then go back and forth between them, it will pull up the item IDs of the items you have in your equipment, but it will pull it up for the wrong table, as every piece of equipment in the game is stored in either a weapon table or an armor table with an item ID, and items with corresponding IDs could be confused and obtained using the equipment glitch here. So for instance, the mithril axe they pulled up, or they bought in Melman, has the same item ID in the weapon table as the black garb has in the armor table. So if they use the glitch, then they can take advantage of it here. Taralyn getting very unlucky with a group of mind flayers that had paralyzed locked her group. So she opts to reset after she took a quick safety save at the beginning of the ice cave. Ice Cave is one of the more dangerous caves one of the more dangerous locations in this run in general. So safety saving periodically is recommended in order to minimize the amount of time you have to spend backtracking if you get a poor encounter such as that. The Mind Flayer she ran into have an attack called the Mind Blast, which can full party paralyze. Or they can also have physical attacks, which actually have a chance to kill our characters immediately on contact, regardless of the amount of damage done. So her whole party got paralyzed there, and while the paralyzed from the Mind Blast can't stack, if they opted to use their attacks that have a chance to KO on, she may have wiped. But she had the safety save, so she took advantage of that and quickly decided to just reset and look for a better encounter and hope on and continue on. Raeanus is making his way over here. Now that we have the canoe, we can cross little river sections such as this in order to reach the ice cave next. So we're in here for a few things. We have to pick up the Levistone key item, which is an item we need to be able to obtain the airship. And then right before we pick that up, there is the grind section that we're planning to. Taralyn's getting really unlucky here because that is another dangerous ambush that she got there with Dark Wizards. Dark Wizards can cast Viraga, which can overpower the amount of damage our party can have at this point. So she's had very poor luck here in the ice cave to start, and Raeanus has taken over a quick lead. Taralyn makes a mistake there in combat. She was trying to run away from Pisco Demons, which aren't runnable, so she has to take yet another reload. Raeanus getting a Dark Wizard, but it wasn't an ambush. They're much easier to get away from if you don't encounter them in an ambush formation. They're very dangerous if you get them in an ambush, though. So Taralyn switched equipment earlier when she took the Sage's Staff off of her characters and changed it with the Lust Dagger, so she no longer has enough intelligence on her Black Mage to be able to use Thundara like she did earlier to clear these groups of Pisco Demons. Raeanus is making his way through the cave. Ice Cave is not a traditional dungeon in that you can just find a staircase at the end of every floor. In some cases, the only way to advance is to step onto some cracked ice tiles, and that will drop you down to the next floor to advance. And here we see Raeanus getting a Dark Wizard ambush, and that's probably a reset for him. I believe both runners are using an emulator at this point. It is more common for runners to use emulator than it is to actual hardware in this particular category. Emulator and console are both allowed in this tournament. The significant advantages of emulator are it has a little slower or a little quicker loading times, and including resetting, so soft resetting. The console for poorer encounters such as they are takes a little less time than it would on a console, but the difference is not all that significant. Taralyn getting an Ice Gigas Winterwolf encounter, and she used a staff, but she didn't have enough damage from the Judgment Staff that she used to kill the Ice Gigas, so she had to take an extra round of combat to kill that off. I would say both of the runners are getting relatively poor RNG here in the Ice Cave. Taralyn makes it here over to the grind. So she's made her way over to here, the Levistone. As soon as she steps on this tile in front of it, she's going to force a fight with the Evil Eye here. Every step she takes on this tile is going to force an encounter automatically with it. But she took advantage of the low health of our characters and the fact that the Evil Eye likes to cast Thundara to get her Warrior and Thief killed off, so that she can grind some experience levels for the mages. The goal here is to try to get them to level 18, so that by the end of the Citadel of Trials, the mages are level 19. We'll need level 19 to be able to pick up the most powerful spells that they'll be using in this run. In this case, Heal Aura for the White Mage and Teleport for the Black Mage require our characters to be level 19 in order to purchase and use the spell. Heal Aura will serve as the main source of healing once we reach that point of the run, and Teleport will be used to save us a bunch of backtracking through dungeons later on. So Taralyn is taking advantage of this tile to grind on here. Every time she steps on this, it forces a fight with him. Evil Eye is worth 3,200 experience, and split two ways, that's basically 1,612 experience, I believe, for each character. It should take her usually 1 to 2 fights to get each level, and around this time her characters will start this point around level 11 or 12, depending on how many encounters they were forced to fight earlier. So it will take her something like 7 to 9 fights against the Evil Eye to get up to level 18. Both of her mages are now level 18 here. So now she's all set with the grind. She's actually going to resurrect the Thief, but not the Warrior at this point, to try to get the Thief some experience through the next section to see if maybe he can get enough levels to learn Haste. It's not a guaranteed thing to happen, but it increases the opportunity for the Thief to learn Haste later on. The Warrior, or the Black Mage, will already be learning Haste, but it would be additionally beneficial if we get Haste on our Thief. Taralyn's getting unlucky here with White Dragons, and this is not a good situation for her. This is very dangerous for Taralyn right now. That's a wipe, I think. I hope she's safety saved, because if she didn't, she's going to be in a world of hurt right now. There actually is a PSP randomizer, but it is currently still in a beta phase right now, and I don't believe it has as many features as the NES version 1 does. It is fun though, because you can actually, it has a bunch of features such as shuffling shops and spells around. You can turn encounters off, turn random encounters off. So let's see where Taralyn is here. Raeanus has the Levistone, and looks like he's going to be... He's already done the grind though, and he's resurrecting both of his characters. He probably didn't want to resurrect the Warrior, but it's very easy to make that mistake. So he might just leave the Warrior at low health and let him die off again naturally. Taralyn, in the meanwhile, has to work her way back now that she wiped a White Dragons. It was a rare 1 in 64 encounter that she got with those guys, but unfortunately for her, she did not safety save at any point during the dungeon. She just saved at the very beginning of the dungeon, so she has to repeat this, and then she's going to be behind Raeanus at this point, unless Raeanus also gets a very, very unlucky encounter. She's going to have to work to get caught up. And here she gets him yet again. So this is a pretty rare encounter, and it's very rare to get it twice here. White dragons are runnable, but it can be dangerous to run from with the equipment we have at this point. And if they use that Ice Storm attack, as you've seen, it can do quite a lot of damage and set them back. So if they fail to run away, it's extremely dangerous. Raeanus here getting a Cockatrice ambush. But Raeanus now has the lead at this point because he's managed to make it all the way out of Ice Cavern. So he's going to be several minutes ahead while Taralyn has to go back through this and repeat the grind section, and then hopefully get out safely this time. But again, this is not over by any stretch. I mean, Raeanus might be several minutes ahead, but it's not unheard of for runners to make up deficits of that much, even this far along in the run. Taralyn's back and repeating the grind here. Raeanus, in the meantime, has made it back to his boat, and he's taking the Levistone that we picked up there over to this desert here. Buried in the desert is an airship, and the Levistone will raise it back from there. So you'll see a brief cutscene here while we unearth the airship. But it's another of the skippable cutscenes that you can see here, right here. He's going to skip this cutscene and then obtain it right here. Taralyn, meanwhile, has just picked up the Levistone and is going to begin the grind again. Raeanus here, now that he has it, his first destination is going to be the Citadel of Trials. There's a key item we need there, as well as one or two pieces of equipment we can pick up for glitching. Raeanus, unfortunately for us, there's only a narrow amount of spots you can actually pick to choose to land your airship on before getting over to the Citadel, and it necessitates a bit of an overworld walk to get there. So that is the nearest landing tile that Raeanus has. Now he's got to walk over this section of land to get over there. Taralyn's making her way through the grind. She's doesn't have too much more to go at this point. Her mages are 17 and 16 respectively. She wants to get the lowest one up to 18 if possible. So her black mage has to gain 2 more levels. It got one of them there. So she's probably going to repeat this 1 or 2 more times to get level 18 for her black mage. Raeanus, meanwhile, is just making his way over this, hoping not to get too many encounters and to increase his lead as much as possible. And Raeanus has made it here to the Citadel. He's got to stop and talk to this NPC here, which will unlock the throne so we can teleport it here. So Raeanus is into a bit of a teleporter maze on this second floor here. Each room that you walk into has 1 or 2 teleporters that you can take, and advancing through the correct one will take you to the right, will take you to the next room in the maze. Taking the wrong one will send you back to the very start of the floor. The runners should know which one to take in each situation. For casual runners, if you're playing this, you can know which one to take in each room. So if there's a choice of teleporters, you want to take either the rightmost one or the bottommost one, and that will advance you to the next floor. Some rooms only have 1 porter, so there's only one way to go. I believe there's 9 or 10 rooms they have to work their way through to get off this floor entirely. If they happen to run into Minotaur zombies, those are unrunnable in this dungeon. Raeanus has made it through, and now he's on the 3rd floor. As soon as he enters this, or steps through this doorway, this forces an encounter with nightmares. Usually 1 or 2 of them will spawn here on this tile every time he walks on it. Taralyn's getting another group of Pisco Demons over here, which again are unrunnable. Now, Raeanus, these nightmares are actually runnable, but they can be somewhat difficult to run from given the stats of our party, even in spite of our overpowered equipment. So Raeanus picks up the healing staff over here, a key item we're going to need for the glitching. It glitches an item called the Lordly Robes, which is yet another piece of gear we can pick up that's PSP exclusive, and then he's got to walk back over the same tile and force another encounter with them. If he really, really wanted to, he could skip this fight, but due to the way we have set up the experience grind, we're trying to hit level 19 by the end of this dungeon, and killing this off gives us a higher chance to make sure that our mages are level 19 there. Taralyn is now out of the ice cave and working furiously to catch up at this point, so she's several minutes behind due to the unfortunate wipe she had in the ice cavern. Raeanus is almost done here. He's got one last chest to pick up on this floor. The Rat's Tail is a key item we need to be able to class change our characters. And then to exit this floor, we have to step onto this throne, but right in front of it is a forced encounter tile with dragon zombies, which are unrunnable. This is again another tile that we can go back and forth on to repeat fights if necessary to gain levels. But I believe Raeanus has gotten enough experience that both of his mages should be level 19 at this point. So now that he's got that and he's gotten out of the Citadel, he's just going to have to make the walk back to his airship. Taralyn, meanwhile, is picking up her airship and will be taken over to the landing spot to start making the trek over to the Citadel. So there's about a 1 dungeon difference between the two players right now. But again, this is not something that Taralyn can't make up over the remainder of the run. She's going to have to work for it, and she's going to need to get some help from the game, but she can still overcome this deficit. But the fewer mistakes Raeanus makes from this point forward, the better his chances are to hold this lead. So Raeanus heads over here and parks it on this little island here and enters Bahamut's cave. There's a number of different dragon caves here. This is the only one which has Bahamut in it, though. So we have to go through and walk through 2 very, very long corridor rooms to get to him, and we will give him the Rat's Tail, and that will allow us to class change our characters up. The class changing increases the amount of variety of equipment that our characters can equip, and also increases the amount of spells that they can purchase and utilize throughout this run. It is necessary for us to class change in order to purchase the spells that we want to use in this run. So we can't use Heal Aura or Teleport without class changing. Taralyn is working her way through the teleporter maze on the 2nd floor of the Citadel. And it's doing so far so good. I saw her get some Minotaur zombies encounters, which are unrunnable. They're good for experience, but you don't really want to run into them at this point because it just slows you down. So Raeanus has class changed, and his first destination here is going to do a little bit of a... take some quick side trips on his way to the next dungeon, Mount Gulg. So first thing he's going to do here is stop over in this little desert caravan, which is not very obvious on the world map, but you can kind of see that it's a little segregated here, so it stands out a little bit. Well, when you're in there, the merchant sells a bottled ferry for 40,000 gold. Money is not an object at this point, so we can afford that. And then one of the key features of the GBA and PSP versions of this game is after you have purchased that from him, another menu of items opens up with some combat use items you can purchase, such as Giant's Tonic. We purchase either 2 or 11 because it takes just as much time to purchase 2 as it does 11 in the menuing. And a Giant's Tonic will raise a character's maximum HP in combat by 200, only for the duration of that combat, though. Raeanus took a little too far in the town and actually exited to the world map, which cost him a little time. But once you have the bottled ferry, you take it here to Gaia, and as soon as you enter the town, the ferry, you uncap the bottle, and the ferry flies out to the little spring in the back of the town. You chase her down by heading over there. And then she'll reward you for freeing her by giving you a key item called Oxyale. We need this Oxyale to be able to traverse the Sunken Shrine dungeon that will be coming up. Need to be able to breathe underwater in order to be able to go down there. So Taralyn is through the Citadel and is catching up slowly but surely. So Raeanus has that, exits the town through over here, and now he's going to head over and make his way to Mount Gulg, which is the second of the 4 elemental dungeons we're going to go through. Taralyn getting a sandworm here. That can be particularly dangerous if it's an ambush, or if she fails to run from that, as the sandworm has an earthquake attack which can insta-kill party members. And if it happens to get all of our party members at once, it's basically an instant wipe. Raeanus is here in Mount Gulg. You might see him walking on a lot of these red lava tiles. One property of the lava tiles is they do damage to our party members, 1 damage to each member for every tile you step on, but a significant advantage of that is you don't get encounters on lava tiles. So you're going to see you're going to see each of these players try to maximize the number of steps they can take on lava, because taking damage is will save them time compared to just trying to run over these other non-lava tiles. So Raeanus is here. He's on the second last floor now. Taralyn, meanwhile, is taking the Rat's Tail over to Bahamut and is in the middle of the class change cutscene. Raeanus is now on the last floor. His characters are going to be pretty low on health here, and he's going to opt to heal up his party at this point. After this point, you shouldn't need any potions from this point on, so he ended up with plenty of extra potions. But he heals up before the second fight with Merilith. Taralyn is making her way to the Desert Caravan to pick up the Bottled Fairy and some Giant's Tonics. So, Merilith has 1440 HP, and the quickest strategy is to just hope that the warrior and thief have to roll enough damage to be able to kill her in 2 attacks. You can optionally attack with the mages to do some little extra damage, but they don't do nearly as much with the Lust Dagger as the melee characters do with the Barbarian Sword at this point. But attacking with all 4 characters should guarantee a 1-round fight, but it can take a little more time a little more animation time to watch them attack than it would to just attack with the warrior and the thief. So Taralyn has got the bottle, and now she's going to head here to Gaia, unleash the fairy, and track it down at the spring in the back of the town. Raeanus, in the meantime, has defeated Merilith. This cutscene plays out in the bonus versions, in the GBA and PSP versions of the game. A short bonus cutscene plays after you defeat each fiend, showing one of the bonus dungeons unlocking. In this case, I believe it is Hellfire Grotto, I believe is the name of the dungeon that is... No, it's not Hellfire Dungeon, it's Hellfire Chasm, I believe, is the name of the dungeon that unlocks when you defeat Merilith here. Sadly, there's no real reason for us in this 80% run to visit any of the bonus dungeons that are available in this version. They just don't offer us anything that we can't get from visiting other locations of the game. A more common category you might see players run that does visit that is called All Bosses, which requires us to go through each of the dungeons to visit and defeat the bonus bosses, as well as the PSP exclusive bonus dungeon, the Labyrinth of Time. So Raeanus here is now picking up. He's doing a quick little shopping trip now that he's out of Mount Gulg, while he works his way over to the town of Onrak and the Sunken Shrine. He stops first in Elfheim to pick up Haste and Blizzara for his Black Mage, and if it's available, he can also pick up Haste for his Thief if the Thief gained enough experience. And then he stops here in Melman to pick up the spells that we gained level 19 for. Teleport for the Black Mage, Heal Aura for the White Mage. Those are all the spells we need, so between Fira Thundara, Blizzara, Haste, Teleport, and Heal Aura are the only 6 spells you will ever see in this category right now. and a lot of runners don't even use Fira, Thundara, Blizzara. They can find some combat items which do the same thing. The Labyrinth of Time is unlocked when you defeat each of the 4 fiends. When you return to the Chaos Shrine, and you'll see a short cutscene play at the very beginning, as soon as you enter that, with a masked character who will advance towards the back of the back of the Chaos Shrine and open up a special door there. So we'll actually see the cutscene where she opens that up for us, but you won't actually see the players enter it. Taralyn has made her way through Mount Galg and is now confronting Merilith. She's opting to attack with one of her mages to just make sure that it does enough damage to kill off Merilith, and it does in one round. Raeanus, meanwhile, has made his way to Onrak, and with the power of the Oxyale we picked up earlier, we can now visit the Sunken Shrine. So Raeanus has a couple of objectives here that he's going to work his way through. Unfortunately, the objectives are kind of in opposite directions. So first he's going to go right after he reaches the end of this corridor up here, and he's going to pick up a key item on the 5th floor. You start on the 3rd floor here, and he's going to pick up a key item we need to be able to visit the Flying Fortress later on in the run. So we need to pick up the Rosetta Stone in order to allow us to reach that later on. Raeanus got a little nasty encounter with a Water Naga here, and Rizzo is going to heal up. Taralyn's watching the cutscene of the Hellfire Chasm opening up. Raeanus is trying to run away from ghosts, which she can't do, so that's a bit of a mistake there. Now, I don't know if he actually picked up Fira or... Oh, he did go back and pick it up, okay. So he's got the spells he needs to be able to quickly take care of this group. But there are 3 different enemy formations we're looking to avoid in the Sunken Shrine. Specifically, you don't want to see ghosts because they're unrunnable. You don't want to see Sahagin Prince and Chief groups because there's a lot of enemies and they are also unrunnable. And then additionally, if you happen to see water elementals by themselves, that is also unrunnable. You may occasionally see water elementals and Water Naga in the same formation. If you happen to see that, it is actually runnable. It's a common exception that a lot of newer runners may not be familiar with, though. So you may see them unexpectedly fight that group if they don't need to. Raeanus made his way all the way to the 5th floor and picked up the Rosetta Stone here. There's no encounters on that 5th floor, so he can just make his way quickly through that. Once he's done that, we utilize the teleport spell for the first time, and teleport returns our party 1 floor for each time you cast it. So it puts us at the end of the last floor we were just on, and it takes us back towards the beginning of the dungeon. In that case, we're going to start heading left this time. And we're going to make our way down to Kraken. On the 2nd floor, we're going to detour and pick up another item for a glitching before we confront Kraken. But otherwise, Raeanus is going to make his way there. Taralyn is picking up and is getting to the start of here. So actually, Taralyn has definitely made up some time here. She's not too far behind, but she still has to go and pick up the Rosetta Stone, so she's probably a minute to a minute and a half behind right now, depending on encounters here. Sea Trolls are perfectly runnable, so no danger there. Raeanus is working his way down to Kraken little by little. Raeanus is now on the 2nd floor, and before he goes up to the final floor to face Kraken, he's going to stop here and pick up this chest with a key item, Light Axe. We don't need the Light Axe, but we need the item that it glitches into, which is a Survival Vest. This is another of the items that's only available from defeating the PSP Super Boss, but it is conveniently available via the glitch in this version. So he's going to utilize this and put it on his characters. 2 to 3 copies each character. This again has even more agility than the Black Garb did before. So that adds 15 points of agility for each piece of armor you equip on your characters. And that is the maximum amount that any piece of gear, other than there's one other piece of gear in the game that adds 30 points of agility, but it's not easily obtainable in the main course of the game, so it's unfortunately not utilized in this run. I believe it's called the Shadow Mask. It's another of the PSP exclusive items, but there's no convenient way to get it in this run. So Taralyn has picked up the Rosetta Stone and is warping back to start her trek down to Kraken. Raeanus has finished glitching and setting up his party for Kraken, and now he's on Kraken's floor just making his way through it. Raeanus is almost there. He's just got to make his way through the next door. This is an unrunnable encounter he got with the water elemental, though. Luckily for him, there's only one of them, so he can opt to attack it with his sword instead of using a spell. So Taralyn is only one floor behind him, but she also has to do the glitch, and then she has to walk through that entire floor that Raeanus just finished, and deal with any encounters that she gets along the way. So she's been getting, I would say, better luck than he is right now, but she's still behind and she still has to work for it. Raeanus is fighting Kraken. Kraken is a bit of a pushover in this version due to the equipment glitch. With the overpowered equipment we have, he does not do much damage at all, and does not utilize any very powerful attacks or spells against us. So the worst he can do is blind us, which might slightly reduce the amount of damage our characters do, but it doesn't significantly alter anything. Darkness is kind of a joke stat in this particular run, because it doesn't... While Darkness was fixed in this version and does actually properly work, it still doesn't impact us enough with the gear we have. So Taralyn, meanwhile, is doing the survival. He's using the light axe that she just picked up, and you might have noticed that she she took a few extra steps to approach that chest specifically from the right side of the chest as opposed to the left side or below the chest. And the reason for that is that if you step on either the left side or the lower side of the chest, it forces an encounter. The encounter itself, I believe, is runnable, but it still is any random encounter. The best encounter result you can hope for is to run immediately, and that still wastes 5 or 6 seconds versus not getting an encounter. Raeanus has made his way out of that now that he's defeated Kraken, and he's going to detour up and head to the Waterfall Cavern. In order to access the Flying Fortress, we need 2 key items. In order to reach one of them, we need the Rosetta Stone in order to be able to reach one of the other key items, and the other key item is located here in the Waterfall Cavern. So this is a bit of a twisty, windy cavern here, and there can be a lot of encounters such as this green dragon, which is the unfortunate unrunnable here. So that is a rare 1 in 64 encounter. And there, again, are bats that get in the way of things here, so we're hoping the bats don't get in the way too much to force us to take extra steps. But this is kind of a sprawling, single-level dungeon, but almost every path other than one results in a dead end. So they're working their way specifically to a treasure room at the end of the cavern. Inside the treasure room is an NPC robot who will hand us the warp cube, which is one of the key items we need to reach the Flying Fortress. And also there are 6 treasure chests in that room. Inside one of them is a ribbon, and we'll utilize the ribbon to perform yet another equipment glitch in this case, but we'll do a unique glitch that I'll explain when he gets there in a minute. Taralyn's having some poor encounter luck, which is slowing her down a bit. So here we see the nightmares that Raeanus, it's the same enemies that we fought in the Citadel, but now that we have even more agility on our equipment, our character's chances to run are significantly better, so we try to run away from them instead of fighting them. As soon as you step in this treasure room, there's a forced encounter on this tile, but it is runnable. This is the robot you need to talk to get the warp cube, and directly above her is a chest with a ribbon. So, unlike a lot of the pieces of equipment we pick up in this run, the ribbon is actually a useful item that we want to take advantage of, but the equipment glitch, in a lot of cases when we're picking up the equipment, we don't want the item that we're picking up, we're just hoping to use it to glitch a corresponding item and then we leave the other item in our inventory and pretty much ignore it and just utilize the glitched piece of equipment. In this case, we want to use the ribbon, so we actually glitch it into its corresponding item called the Gegantax, and then once we have the Gegantax, we can actually use that to perform the equipment glitch to duplicate and create more ribbons. It's the only instance in this game where we're basically picking up an item, using it to glitch the corresponding item, and then using the corresponding item to glitch more copies of the item we originally picked up in the first place. Otherwise, we're usually just picking up things like the Mithril Axe, which has no value to us personally, but it has its corresponding item is the Black Garb, which is important to us for raising agility, or the Mithril Gloves, which is useless to us again, but is very valuable for giving us the less dagger equipment. Taralyn's 3 minutes behind. I can believe that, based on she did not have a particularly good end of that Sunken Shrine in terms of encounters. But she was catching up before that, unfortunately for her. So now Taralyn's going to make her way through that. Raeanus, in the meantime, has picked up the Rosetta Stone, which was the key item we picked up in the Sunken Shrine, and he has to stop here in Melmond and turn it into this NPC who will translate it for us and allow us to speak Lufenian language. We'll be visiting a town immediately after this trip, and unless we've translated the stone, the NPCs will be speaking gibberish to us and won't be able to communicate with them. If we can't communicate with them, they won't be able to hand us the key item we need, the other key item we need to be able to access the Flying Fortress, which is the Chime. So, Raeanus is here, making his way over to Lufenia. Once again, there's only a small landing spot, and he's got to take a long walk to make his way over there. He's particularly hoping to avoid seeing Minotaur zombies on this walk, as they are unrunnable. Everything else is runnable, but Minotaur zombies, or if he sees Minotaur zombies and trolls, are both unrunnable, and that will necessitate him stopping to have to kill them if he encounters them. So Raeanus made it through, but he saw some Minotaur zombies here. Raeanus is getting NPC blocked in the town, though. There's a lot of narrow little passages here in the town, and if the NPCs are in your way, all you can do is try to force them out of the way by pushing them. But now that we speak Lufenian, this particular NPC here will hand us the Chime, and then we'll teleport out and continue on. Raeanus at that point now has both items he needs to be able to proceed all the way through Mirage Tower to the Flying Fortress, and then all the way through the Flying Fortress to get to Tiamat, the last of the 4 elemental fiends we have to confront before the final boss. So now that he has that, he's just going to make his way back to the airship, which again necessitates back. Taralyn is performing the glitch here at the end of here and has picked up the warp cube, so now she's going to warp out of here and head back and start making her way over, first to Melmond and then over to Lufenia, just like Raeanus is doing. Raeanus is getting more Minotaur zombies, which are unrunnable, slowing him down a little bit. The landing spot for Mirage Tower is very, very close by. That mountain bit. And then we need the Chime to be able to enter the Mirage Tower, so now that he has the Chime, he can enter it. The Chime, or the Mirage Tower, has 3 floors, and at the very end of the 3rd floor there is a forced fight with a blue dragon. It's also possible to run into it here and get a random encounter with the blue dragon, which is unrunnable here. This 2nd floor in particular is the longest of the 3 floors and has a very high encounter rate. So you're going to see Raeanus probably get into steps every couple of steps, or get into encounter every couple of steps. can be very frustrating because you're trying to make good time on this floor, and you can often get a lot of encounters here. Raeanus actually had a really good run there without any encounters. Taralyn, meanwhile, is starting the walk to Lufenia. Raeanus is off that floor. Now he's just got to circle around and enter this room. Forces a fight right here with the blue dragon, who goes down in one attack to our barbarian swords. So he's not a threat here. And then, using the warp cube, we can step on this lit up tile here and teleport to the flying fortress and continue on. So Raeanus is now all set to just basically head straight to Tiamat. We don't have to detour in here for any equipment or any other items. So we can head straight to the boss. There are 5 floors in the flying fortress. Taralyn's getting Minotaur Zombie Troll over here, so she's got to take care of that with Fira. She's almost there, and she's into Lufenia to pick up the chime. Raeanus, meanwhile, on the 3rd floor, now heading to the 4th floor. If anyone has played any version of this game, this floor actually is an endless floor. You can walk in any direction for any amount of time that you want to walk, but there is an exit. It's basically a 4x4 floor that repeats endlessly if you just keep walking in any direction. The way to reach the exit is basically to go either up or down 2 corridors, and then either left or right 2 corridors. It doesn't really matter since the pattern repeats either way. If they get lost, they can cast teleport to return to the last floor and then immediately step back on there and go back there, but runners typically don't get lost there. So Taralyn is working her way back to her ship. Raeanus is now on the final floor. We're hoping to see a Warmech here. This is the only floor where he spawns in the game. And we're all about the rare encounters in this tournament here. In particular, we'd love to see a Warmech here. We didn't see him so far, so we're going to hope that Raeanus sees him after this Tiamat encounter here. Tiamat has a little more HP than some of the other fiends that we've fought to this point. So you may see them utilize haste on with their black mage to try to speed up this fight, but they may not do that. He only has 2400 HP, so it usually takes 3 or 4 attacks depending on what you do here. Taralyn is landing here at the desert to work her way over to Mirage Tower. Raeanus, in the meantime, has just defeated him and was now going to be watching a cutscene that shows the opening of Whisperwind Cove, the last of the 4 bonus dungeons here. I can probably find a list of IDs, I think. Give me a second. Oops. I guess it thinks I'm a spam bot, so I can't post it at the moment. I'll just give it a second. There is a list available on GameFAQs.com if you'd like to try to check it out. I'll try to give that a minute and see if I can post it in a few minutes. But yes, it is available there if you'd like to look it up yourself. Taralyn's working her way through Mirage Tower. And here she's fighting the Blue Dragon. If you're watching here, this is the cutscene that plays showing the opening of the Labyrinth of Time bonus dungeon here in the PSP version. So this figure heads to the back of the Chaos Shrine and opens up to this little door. If you want to enter the dungeon, you basically just follow her over there and then watch it open up. So Raeanus, now that he has restored the power of all 4 crystals, is going to take advantage of this and warp to the final dungeon here. So we'll hopefully see him take a safety save here, because this could be dangerous. What have you missed, Lenifus? You have missed quite a few wipes at this point. We saw some White Dragon wipes in Ice Cave. We've seen some Dark Wizard wipes in Ice Cave. Ice Cave in particular was very poor to each of these runners. Yeah, Raeanus has a pretty significant lead here, so barring a significant mistake by him, he should be able to close this out. Taralyn in particular has had very, very poor Ice Cave today, because she made it basically all the way through the grind, and then on the run out, she ran into and wiped on White Dragons, and her safety save was only at the start of Ice Cave, so she had to repeat that. Raeanus is dealing with unrunnable green dragons here. Taralyn, meanwhile, is hoping to see a Warmech on this 5th and final floor. Taralyn confronting Tiamat here. No problem for her. Raeanus, in the meantime, has made his way up and played the loot, which is a key item we received very early in the run, and now that he's played that, he can continue on through the dungeon. He's hoping to avoid Ice Gigas Winterwolves or other unrunnable encounters. There's a lot of different unrunnable formations throughout this dungeon. And the bot's not going to let me post that. Oh well. If you guys are still looking for that list of equipment item IDs, you can probably just check out Game FAQs. I don't think it's going to let me post it myself. So Taralyn's watching the cutscene here. Raeanus is making his way to the four basement floors that each feature a refight with the fiends that we fought earlier. So he's almost there. Just has to get through 1 or 2 more fights to get off this floor, and then he'll be on the first of the 4 refight floors. So this is Lich's floor here. You'll see a lot of the same enemies that we might have run into in the Earth Cave, as well as some additional ones, such as Earth Medusas or Earth Elementals. Earth Elementals actually are unrunnable here, so it's unfortunate for Raeanus, but he's still got a pretty significant lead here. Raeanus got through Earth Medusas here. Now he's got Clay Golems and Stone Golem, particularly dangerous to us. So Taralyn sees the cutscene showing the Labyrinth of Time opening up, and now she's gonna just step here and start the final dungeon. About half of the dungeon behind right now. Several minutes she's going to have to work to catch up. It's unlikely for her to catch up, but Chaos can still even this, as if Chaos gives Raeanus a poor pattern, it can slow him down and necessitate him resetting once or twice, and she could be right back in this. For this first refight with Lich, in particular, we're hoping that Lich does not cast Flare, as he has a new cast right on the first round called Flare, which is the exact same spell we've been using against a bunch of enemies throughout this run. It does a lot of damage and has the potential to wipe a couple of our party members. It usually won't kill our full party if they're at full health, but it just can slow us down and then force force Raeanus to take a menu to resurrect his characters and heal them back up. Thankfully, he didn't do that here. Taralyn's getting white dragons here. They're easier to run from at this one back in Ice Cave when she tried to, but she might not be happy with trying to run from him after the luck she had earlier, so you might just see her indiscriminately try killing them, just to make sure that they don't cause her more problems. Raeanus, meantime, had a very, very quick Merilith floor and is right back here at the refight with Merilith. So Merilith has more than twice the HP she had on the first run, but again, not a very big threat here. The worst spell she can cast here is for Raga. She didn't do it, so no problem there for Raeanus. Raeanus is going to have to make his way now through the ice, or the Kraken floor. Water elementals are the most prominent enemy we can see here. They slow us down and they're unrunnable here. Taralyn here is confronting Death Eye, which is unrunnable, but that's the only spell you will see him in the entire game. Now she's also getting green dragons, which is not something she wants to see here, because that just slows her down compared to trying to catch up to Raeanus. Raeanus getting more water elementals, and he is also using Blizzard to kill those. They're both weak to fire. You would think that water would be weak to lightning, but they're not actually weak to lightning. In this one, they're weak to ice. So Blizzard does actually more damage. Raeanus getting a lot of groups here, so he's having a very slow Kraken flow right now, but it's probably not enough to allow Taralyn to catch up. Taralyn getting unrunnable dragon zombies here, so she's going to have to deal with them with Fira. Raeanus getting yet another water elemental group. Taralyn's starting to make her way down here. And getting another dragon zombie group, so neither one of them is getting particularly great art. Kraken still a pushover in this form. Has, I believe, 3,600 on this fight. So it should take 2 rounds of combat to take him down. Taralyn getting yet another group of dragon zombies. And then Taralyn's getting this particularly unwelcome Ice Gigas Winterwolf combination. Luckily for her, Fira is enough to clear them out. Raeanus is now heading into the Tiamat refight. Tiamat has the most HP of any of the fiends we have at this point, so this could be a 2 or 3 round fight. More likely 3, since he opted not to heal. Taralyn getting purple worms, another unrunnable encounter here. Taralyn's just getting absolutely slammed with encounters right now, which is not letting her catch up. So this is what Raeanus needs to be able to secure a victory here. And he's not making any real mistakes with it, so he's capitalizing on what the game is giving him to this point. Now that the Fiend refights are over, Raeanus has made it to the final floor, and quick setup for the final boss. Heal up, and hopefully for his sake he will take a safety save before this final fight. So he's going to change his equipment slightly. In particular, he's going to put, I believe, a Barbarian Sword on his Black Mage. As the Black Mage is going to turn, will be hasting for the first 3 rounds of the Chaos fight, and then we'll be attacking from that after that point. And we're setting up the White Mage to have as much intelligence as possible so that she can use Heal R to haste and overcome any damage that Cass will use. Cass is very powerful multi-target attacks, and getting through the first couple of rounds of this fight is the key. Raeanus did take a save, So that will afford him the opportunity to start over the fight if he happens to get an unfortunate opening attack. But barring a reset or two, it's pretty much up to Raeanus at this point just to make sure that he can finish this off. Taralyn is working her way here, but she's currently 4 floors behind, heading into the first of the elemental Refiend fights. So what happened throughout this run is our characters did not get as much experience or as many HP level ups as we were hoping for. So Chaos's opening attacks can do a lot of damage to our Thief and Black Mage, who are particularly vulnerable due to their low HP totals. So the Giant's Tonic we picked up at the Caravan can help us overcome that by raising the max HP of each of those characters by 200. So for the opening round, instead of attacking, we're going to use the Giant's Tonics to raise their maximum HP, and then hopefully Chaos does not use his most powerful attacks. So in this case, he just attacked the Warrior on Raeanus' side, which is a welcome sight because it didn't hit one of the vulnerable targets, and attacking has a very low animation time compared to many of his attacks. Taralyn takes down the Lich and did not get flared, so that's good for her. Raeanus, meanwhile, is still setting up, but has passed the danger point, it looks like, at this point. All of his characters are very healthy, and he's correctly set up his party. So now that that is set up, it should be almost Holdex to win mode for Raeanus if he gets through one more round. Taralyn getting Fire Elementals, which are unrunnable on that floor. So now the Warrior Thief and Black Mage are all hasted on Raeanus' side. White Mage is going to be on healing duty for the rest of the fight. Everyone else is just going to be attacking, and they just got to power through Chaos's 20,000 HP. Preferably before he casts, or hopefully he won't cast Curaja, which can restore half of his max health. But he doesn't look to be taking that pattern of attacks, so he's unlikely to last many more rounds at this point. This should be GG for Raeanus, we'll find out in a minute. Taralyn, meanwhile, making her way through Kraken's floor, but she's getting the unrunnables. And it looks like Raeanus is finished. Welcome.
Hello.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. That was amazing.
Both of you guys had a very difficult ice cave, I would say.
Oh my gosh, the dark mages got the drop on me.
They were similarly unkind to Taralyn, who I think ultimately wound up resetting 3 times in there.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, she made it actually, I think, all the way through, and then on the escape after the grind, she got white dragons and they wiped her. And her save was back at the start, so I think that was the key moment of the race.
Wow.
So after that, I mean, you just took advantage of what was given to you and didn't make too many mistakes, and you just plowed right ahead and did pretty well.
I was really fortunate that in the Flying Fortress I had almost no encounters.
Yeah. So, I mean, I believe, is that a PB for you?
That is the absolute fastest I've ever completed the game.
Well, congratulations on that as well.
Thank you. I was a little worried about that when that had that horrible ice cave. I thought I'd lost almost 2 minutes there, and I was actually on pace. I was on pace for a PB at that point anyways.
Taralyn, meanwhile, working on the purple worms, but she's almost there.
Awesome. Do you think that the new controller she has is impacting how she's playing today?
I haven't seen anything to indicate that. I think she just mostly had some really poor luck, especially in the ice cave. The ice cave was really, really unkind to her, and then she's been getting absolutely slammed with unrunnables here in the Chaos Shrine, which has not really given her any opportunity to catch up to you. So... I mean, I want to say that wipe in there opened it up like it opened it up maybe a 2 to 3 minute lead at that point, and it didn't seem like you ever really relinquished that.
I know she beat me by 7 minutes last time, so as I got into the Chaos Shrine, I was watching the SRL to see if she was going to finish.
Yeah. So we'll watch her finish up here because she's heading into the Chaos fight.
Awesome.
So she's setting up here. I guess both of you were using the Sage's Staff route. It looked like you were having trouble early on because it looked like you fell a little short of your XP total right off the bat before getting Fire and Thundara.
I did. I forgot that because I only had 2 Pisco Demons, I was going to be short on the experience, and I should have picked up an extra encounter, probably one of those multiple wolves, that would have popped me over level 8.
It didn't seem to hurt you too much, though, because you were actually getting pretty fortunate with the sea encounters, it looked like, and not getting too many of them and not getting particularly bad ones or anything.
No, I think there was only 2 Sahagin ones that gave me some trouble, but other than that, the water actually seemed to move pretty good for me.
Very fortunate here. So, opening round, looks like she's gonna use tonics, I believe, on both characters. Because it looks like both of you rolled a little low HP values for your Black Mage and your Thief today.
That seems to be my standard. I've just gotten to the point where I just assume I'm going to have to use the giant tonics on both the Ninja and the Black Mage.
So Taralyn gets through the opening round. Hope she opted not to tonic on the Thief. The Thief's sitting at 281 right now. That could be a little risky if it gets to Tsunami or Cyclone, but we'll see. Should be fine for Blaze, though. And she re-hasted her Thief. That was a little mistake, but... yeah, I don't think much of what you guys were doing in terms of your encounters were the difference. It just seems like she got much poorer RNG in certain key areas. I noticed you were trying to run away from some unrunnables accidentally.
I did. I sometimes get a little bit too excited and I anticipate, and I'm hitting the bumpers before I actually take a moment to look at the encounter.
So we see Taralyn's Thief still survives through Tsunami. Might be a little dangerous if it gets to Cyclone here, but we'll worry about that if she gets it or not. Alright, now she's got all set up. Here comes Blizzaga, so she's still in pretty good shape. So long as she doesn't get Cyclone, her Thief should be okay. But even then, the other 2 characters should be able to power through, so she's very close to hold X to win mode at this point. So obviously, as a PB, you're very happy with that run over, let's say, right?
I've been ecstatic the last 2 weeks as I've been practicing, getting ready for my last 2 rounds. I've been titling my Twitch stream my journey for 140. So my goal tonight was just to get a 140 or below it. So getting a 137 far exceeded my expectations for this evening.
That's always good to hear, and I know Taralyn just joined us, I believe.
Okay, I did.
Yep. GG, and congratulations on finishing, even though you had some unfortunate ice counter, or ice cave luck tonight.
No kidding. I could have PB'd by 7 minutes.
It honestly seemed like the difference was, that's just good to hear, and I know Taralyn just particular ice cave problem at the very end. Especially that one where you wiped on the white dragons right as you were trying to get out of it.
Yeah,
GG,
that's
and
completely
congratulations
unexpected.
on finishing, even though you... I mean, did you know to run away from them, or were you... I mean, you could try to run away from them. It's usually recommended to kill them if you find them like that. I mean, I guess I don't know if that's something you're familiar with or something as a newer runner.
I'm just not used to getting that encounter there. I typically try to kill him off in the Chaos Temple, but sometimes I feel like I can run away there, and that autopilot must have kicked in.
Yeah. I mean, I think both players had some instances where they tried to run from encounters that weren't runnable. I mean, you can run from the white dragons there, but if you fail to run from them, it's very, very dangerous. But between that and I believe it was the Dark Wizard ambush, and also I believe you had a Mind Flayer ambush there.
Yeah, it was just bad all around. The only other thing I tried to run from that I couldn't was those Pisco demons, and that was just because I was so tilted at that point.
I mean, I want to say it was a pretty close race up until probably Ice Cave, and I think you were in the lead until that white dragon wipe, and then at that point, it just turned into a several-minute lead for Raeanus, and he was able to just capitalize on that. But otherwise, I mean, it was a pretty good race for both of you. And it looks like it was a PB for Raeanus as well.
Well, that's good to hear at least that someone got a PB out of this nightmare. Like I said, I lost over 7 minutes in that damn ice cave.
Yeah, it definitely, and it looks like it was a 6.5 minute difference in the eventual race time, so that was definitely the ultimate factor, I think, in this race today.
But between that and the fact that my swapping was still not quite that good in Sea Shrine, I got a better controller now, and it was paying off in some areas, but just gotta find that sweet spot.
Yeah, I didn't see anyone make any big mistakes on menuing. I mean, maybe you could go a little bit faster, but that just comes with more experience and practice.
That's actually something as I've been watching the other people who have been racing throughout the tournament, is just seeing what they're doing as far as menuing. I think I was watching your race from earlier this week and just watching how you were presetting the cursor to make it a smoother transition as you were going through the menuing. So that's what I'm going to be practicing on the next go around as I'm prepping for Soma, is to see where I can place that cursor to just save those couple of seconds.
Yeah, I gotta prep for Soma also. I didn't get any chance to practice this week either, but I'm definitely gonna be trying to do that at some point this upcoming week.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for running tonight. I believe with the win, it puts you both, I think, at 1 and 2 in the standings.
Yeah, Soma's gonna be rough to try to beat, though.
Yeah, Soma's very good at this, but it puts you guys on pretty even footing, so we'll have to see what happens with the last race for each of you to see which players advance from that group. So, I mean, we'll stay tuned for that.
Well, Soma, I think, is trying to set up. He might be trying to race both of us next week. So our group may finish out if he can schedule both Taralyn and I next week.
Shouldn't be that hard if he can get me in a couple days while my sleep cycle's still in mornings here, or afternoons, evenings, his time.
Well, thank you guys for racing tonight. I think we're going to wrap it up here. Is there anyone you'd like to shout out or say thanks to while you're here?
Thanks to Fiesel for letting us know. I know the SMB3 race was running a little long ahead of our time slot, and just keeping us informed was great.
I just want to thank overall the Discord community. They've been very supportive as I've been trying to learn this race. I've only been doing Final Fantasy 1 for probably a little over 2 months, so I've really been leaning heavily on just asking questions, and I've just been very uplifted by the fact that everyone's been willing to answer all of my questions, even the dumb ones, just to give me the confidence that I can prep for this with such a short amount of time and still be able to compete.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very beginner-friendly run, but obviously it just takes some practice to get more and more familiar, especially with the glitching and performing it quickly. So,
And getting used to your hardware helps too.
I agree with that. So as we say goodnight here, I'm going to say thanks again to Feasel and the Speed Gaming community. If you guys haven't already, please go ahead and follow those channels, Speed Gaming 2, 3, and 4 as well. For those that are interested in the tournament, there will actually be 2 races going on at 10 o'clock Eastern tomorrow at the same time, so we're going to have a 4-way layout going for that one. We'll have our first 4-way layout of the tournament, I think, going on. And so if you guys are going to be awake in the morning, be sure to check that out. I believe it's going to be here on Speed Gaming 4 as well.
I should be awake.
There should be more matches coming up in the next few days besides that. So stay tuned and you'll see more action on these channels. So once again, thanks Taralyn and Raeanus for the race tonight. Thanks to Feasel and the Speed Gaming for hosting us tonight. And thank everyone for watching. And if that's said, then we'll see you guys hopefully in the future. Alrighty, have a good night.